Up and running, and Villapont is loud.
Hello and welcome to the Villa Park podcast. It's me, Rich, and I'm back for what is now known as your favourite show of the week, Talking Tactics with our resident football expert, Gareth. First of all, Gareth, how are you doing this fine week? A busy
Good,
one.
Yeah, good. Yeah, it's a busy one all round. And it comes up to a busy time of year for everyone, I think. But yeah, more so in the football world, a lot of it, unfortunately. But it is what it is. But yeah, a busy week for us and a busy week for the club, of course.
Of course, mate. Of course. Well, we're going to get into all things Bournemouth 2, Aston Villa 2. Lots of talking points from the game that we managed to rescue a draw from. But before we get into it, please do hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. We are well on the road to 3K. We're about 40 away from 2,800. So I'm sure we can do that in the next couple of days. And if we can hit 3K before Christmas, we'd love to do a special giveaway for everyone of our supporters. So make sure you're liking, make sure you're subscribing, and comment down below your thoughts on Talking Tactics. So Gareth, before we kind of get the usual viz and your kind of screenshots, match of the day style analysis, interesting game, mate. Interesting game all round.
Yeah, an odd one, really. Sort of, I think away from home, we all sort of now we know what to expect, don't we, to a certain extent. I think for me, I think a lot of people thought it would be a tough game. I thought we could go there and sort of win the game. How easy that would be, don't know, but now we know that it come to pass. And I think everyone's got those sort of reservations away from home where for some reason we just can't sort of get it together properly. We can sort of do well enough, but we can't sort of get things over the line well enough. And I think that was part of the problem on Saturday, but on Sunday. So, but team selection for me was a little bit,
Yeah, I know we talked around the. I mean, we're going to get into Zaniolo, I'm sure, and one or two others, but we talked around the Consa right back option, Carlos in centre back. I know he provides a bit more presence at times, particularly on set pieces, but I put that tweet out that I think you kind of agreed with, that you kind of forcing three players almost to play in positions that aren't comfortable. Well, actually, in the Tottenham game, it was three players. In this game, it was two players in Konsa and McGinn in particular, playing in positions that aren't familiar to them.
Yeah, I think, and like yourself in regards to tweets sort of thing, I put my lineup out on Twitter before the game and got a little bit of slack for it, really, because people were saying, well, I was going to be Konsa at right back, it's going to be Carlos at centre back, and it was, and they were right. But I put my lineup out because I thought that was the best lineup for the game, not because I thought that's what we would see. And I think the lines are quite blurred there, and I think Konsa for me is not a right back. He could be a hybrid back thing, but it doesn't work. It doesn't work. We've seen it plenty of times now where I think it doesn't. I just don't think it does. And I think Matty Cash, for all his sort of lacking attacking endeavours, he's a solid right back option. Away from home, you need that. Away from home is not the time to be really experimental, from my opinion. I know it's not experimental because we've done it before, but against certain opposition in certain situations away from home, it wasn't right for me, and neither was the inclusion of Zaniolo for me.
Yeah. Well, we're gonna talk about him because I know you've got quite a bit of analysis on him. But into our usual kind of viz images. Again, minutes 1 to 46 here. Passing networks. Anything particular you're noticing here from our setup?
Bournemouth wanted us to play central. They forced us to do so, and that's exactly what happened. We can see that it's clear as day for Martinez, mainly passing comment. I think there was 32 between Martinez and Konsa, and similar between Carlos and Luis. So we can see the route that we're trying to play. They stopped once they wanted us to go through centres, and then they wanted us to go wide out off of that, which is what we did. But look at it, it's blocked. There's no sort of combinations between Pau Torres into sort of McGinn, for example, or out to Digne. We've got none from Conser into Leon Bailey. So, and that's where the hybrid back three for me doesn't work, because you're not going to get those balls. Conser is not that sort of a ball player, if you like, as much as what Pau Torres was. And credit to Bournemouth, they stopped it.
That's really interesting looking at that, because they really forced us into areas that they wanted to press us in, and we know that they're quite physical side. We know that that's where Villa struggle with those kind of teams that are a bit more physical, put their foot in, and they really did. Like, by the look of that, that's how they really did hurt us.
Yeah, well, they know, teams know, that Pau Torres is going to try and fizz that ball into central areas, into areas like John McGinn, for example, and they just stopped it, and they pressed us high, and they just stopped us from doing it. And Luca Digne, we can barely say that he touched the ball almost. It was sort of like quite bizarre, wasn't it? But they did a job on us.
Yeah, and then that kind of puts it into perspective with the expected threat in terms of passes and set pieces. That Ryan Christie, through that central area was a threat. Obviously, the pass for the goal helped with that, but Tavernier as well. And Villa, McGinn and Louise third and fourth, when usually we've seen like Luca Digne right up there, or Cash on the other side right up there. But yeah, like you say, out wide, we just couldn't really get too much going.
No, I mean, Ryan Christie had a field day, in all fairness. I think the commentator said it, excuse me, and he had a field day, and that's exactly what I tweeted at the time, is where we miss Bouba Kamara, because Bouba Kamara is the one that sort of sits in that deeper position. He monitors those attacking midfielders, the number 10s of the opposition, if you like, and he keeps a hand on it, and he's able to nip sort of things in the bud quite a bit, and we missed him terribly.
Yeah. Quick look at the old XG. Yeah, what are you kind of highlighting from this in terms of the situation?
I'm going to highlight two things. Emi Martinez double save. These two saves, those high XG chances, are saved right close to the goal. Two fantastic saves. And that's what stands out for me. I mean, Villa, not many shots there. We can see 11, okay, but just not good enough. This XG, I should say, from both sides is rather high for me. I think it probably was a little bit less than that. There were two high XG chances for Bournemouth, but I still think from both sides, this is a bit high.
Yeah. Well, me and Kev talked about it on our post-match reaction. Emi Martinez, that's those two big saves and a couple of others. That's where the goalkeeper wins you these points. If he doesn't make those saves, we lose 3 or 4-1. And then he gave us the opportunity to go. For obviously Watkins has to finish that chance, but a good goalkeeper gets you 12 to 15 points a season, and he's certainly got us that point on Sunday.
Yeah, I quite agree. I think it's a tale of sort of two ends, isn't it? Like you say, it's all very well him keeping them out at one end, but Watkins has got to then make up for that and put them away at the other end. And I think, like you say, with Emi Martinez, those two saves, just fantastic. And I think, like you say, they're what gets you the points away from home. And I don't think if we'd have lost that game 3-1, a lot of us would have had many complaints.
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. Timeline, I noticed here, the two chances that Bournemouth scored, obviously 0.31, 0.27. I think the chances that Emi Martinez saved were probably higher than that. But the two chances Villa scored, 0.08 and 0.04. I mean, tough chances to be putting away.
Yeah, it's poor. It is quite poor. But again, we go back to it. We've highlighted sort of a lot of these saves from Emi Martinez having to do a lot of work away from home. We're missing a great deal more chances away from home from what I've seen from my data anyway. The XG timelines that we've seen many times are still quite low and creating chances away from home. So you're starting to see a lot of patterns emerge there, and put that alongside team selection and stuff like that. There's a lot of things going on away from home, it seems to me, that sort of really need to be corrected and come together a little bit more. We've highlighted sort of 4 or 5 things there just in one game, and it's not the first time we've done it.
Yeah, well, I know we're going to get into the kind of the stills that you've set up, but you accept that you're probably going to not have as high XG in terms of chances away from home if you're going to be tight at the back. Like, you think tight at the back, nick something, get a goal on the breakaway or whatever. But like, we're a bit open at the back, and yet we're not really doing too much in terms of like really high quality chances either. So it's like we're not quite doing it.
But where we are as a side at the moment, forget about being away from home. Let's just say, in general, overall, we're a very, very good side. We're a top four side. We can say that because we're in there, and Bournemouth are not world beaters. Given the form that we are in, we should be going there and sort of not a convincing one, but we should be beating them. We should be beating them no matter, forget their resurgence and everything else. We should be beating them away from home. And teams like that, it's not happening. Nottingham Forest is another example of that. It's not happening. Given the form that we're in, away from, win 3-1 one week at home and then lose 2-0 away from home the next week. It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. Well, look, we'll get into the screenshots. Do hit that like button though, guys. Hit that subscribe button. Help us on the road to 3K. Comment below your thoughts on all things XG and the passing networks, how Bournemouth really affected us and what we can do moving forward with these away games against teams that, in quotes, we should be beating, because the points return against those teams isn't really good enough at the moment. But look, we are a top four side, which is fantastic, but as always, improvements to make. Just bear with me a second. Let's just get that into it. Coping with the high press. How did we do this, or were we effective in doing this at all, Gareth? What did you notice?
It's more of a case of Bournemouth sort of thwarting everything that we were trying to do potentially at the back, and we can see it pretty much a man-for-man sort of argument. And I think this is where we struggled a lot because of just the position of Bournemouth. And it's just credit to them. This is not really a detriment to us because that's a pretty standard back four and a sort of a midfield two shape for us. I just think you've got to be able to adapt. Tielemans or Louise or McGinn has got to drag one of those sort of players upfield a little bit more to create more space centrally, get those fullbacks a little bit higher, but we can't because it's Ezri Konsa. So you're playing with a hybrid back three. So what then do? You're making it easy for Semenyo.
Yeah. Oh, sorry, mate. I'd lost you then. I thought. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, sorry. Absolutely. I was going to say with that, and you can see it with this, is I could see a lot of the time with the movement of the players, or the lack of movement, they were almost like waiting for someone to do something. And like you said, they're emptying out that space in midfield, maybe pulling the centre backs a little bit wider. And also, like, I know we're going to get onto him, but it's what you want from a forward player. And I guess maybe his thinking in playing as Zaniolo was, if Martinez has to go long, he'd be able to hold it up or bring other players into play. And he just didn't do it.
Yeah, it's almost like sort of square pegs in round holes almost. You're trying to sort of, with Yuri Tielemans, for example, can he play that Boubacar Kamara role like he did in this side? No, I don't think he can. He's better off sort of further upfield when we see Kamara in the side and we see Tielemans further up, for example, in place of Zaniolo or Bailey or, whatever, playing sort of those wider positions with McGinn sort of thing. And this is in the second half. They're still doing the same thing. Bournemouth are still doing the same thing. We're still doing the same thing. The positions are almost identical, but you've got Ramsey instead of John McGinn in there. So we didn't sort of do anything to really change that much.
Yeah, totally agree. And, full credit to Bournemouth for kind of sorting it, coping and like really, really making us struggle. Next point was right-sided overloads, minding the width. Yeah, I mean, down this side, they did kind of have a lot of joy, but we'll get onto that in a second. But what did you mean by this?
I think this is why he's not sure on Leon Bailey, to be honest. I think he's not sure on him defensively. And I think in this shape, you need that because obviously it's a 4-2-2-2 in possession, but we know it's a 4-4-2 out position. Therefore, Leon Bailey is charged with either marking a winger or another opposition fullback. He doesn't really like to do that. He did know he was better. Don't get me wrong, he was better in this game. But his position there, we can see McGinn and Bailey, and this is the positions they hold because they're trying to block passing lanes in between the centre-backs and the full-backs. But in terms of this, you just need to come out a little bit more. And we're going to see why in a minute.
Yes. Yeah. As I say, it was you get the attacking flair that Leon Bailey provided. Obviously, he scored a great goal, but you could see Konsa really struggling against Semenyo, and has anyone seen Leon? And I was noticing this, like, there was just hardly any cover. Well, there was at times, but you have to do it. You have to do it 10 out of 10. You can't do it 6 out of 10 because otherwise you're going to end up getting your team in real trouble.
No, I mean, and they scored a goal from it, and they had those 2 chances that Emery Martinez saved, all from the same situation, all from this situation that you can pretty much see here. And, you know, as performance stands, when we're up in the stands, we can tell managers this because we can see it. If they can't see it, we can see is, Gaffer, you need to get someone else sort of, you know, to back that so you're not being overloaded. And it was just a silly thing. It was just sort of, you could see what was happening for the first few minutes of the game, and nothing really changed in that aspect either. It was just a simple thing. You can see what's happening, but it's not there.
Yeah, it was. I mean, like I say, Bournemouth, look at the front four: Clivert, Solanke, Semenya, and Tavernier are really dangerous. And I, as I say, might have just been an element of some of the players that Emery had picked just not quite doing their job. But it did seem bizarre playing Konsa at right back against a player of Semenya's pace and trickery when Matty Cash had done really well against Brighton, against Mitoma, done really again against Willian. I think he would have coped better with him than Konsa did. And not saying that Konsa didn't have a good game, but it just puzzled me, to be honest.
No, and this is what I'm saying when it comes to square pegs in round holes. You know, you're kind of, who are we to criticise him? I'm just picking up on points for a podcast, you know, but it's just certain kind of things that as an analyst we see and we think to ourselves, you know, this would be sent to the gaffer and they say, well, actually, we won't do that in future against this type of opponent. And it's things to learn from. That's what's important, the takeaway from it. But yeah, it just seemed to me that it wasn't really working early on. And of course, you can't change it. You can't sort of sling Konsa off or whatever and bring Matty Cash on just for the sake of that. You can't. But it's just, if you're going to do that, you've got to be organised. And you're looking at 4-on-4 here. At this position, at this point in the game, it's not a counter attack, by the way. This is an open. This is, you know, it's for me, it's uncomfortable, is what I would say.
Yeah, absolutely. So we've teased it. But yeah, he came in for a lot of criticism from myself included. I've already said I don't get it. I think a lone player coming in needs to hit the ground running, needs to impress who he's coming to, or if not, put himself in the shop window. Don't think Nicolo Zaniolo is doing any of that at the moment. It was a nightmare first half for him. You've put it there. Does he get it? And I guess by this you mean that position and, you know, making movements that will allow him to get the ball in dangerous areas.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, firstly, we should say, you know, no sort of some of the criticism and abuse that he got was quite nasty, and we don't obviously condone any of that, but he doesn't get it. He doesn't get it. It took Leon Bailey a long time, and even he still doesn't quite understand. It's clear as day that Zaniolo can't play this position. He doesn't understand what is being asked of him. To me, he comes across as quite a selfish player on the pitch. He doesn't really seem to sort of interact with people. People say, yeah, he's had a great game for Italy the last game. I'm sure he has, but we don't care what he's doing for Italy. We care what he's doing for the people who are paying his wages on a week-to-week basis. He doesn't get it. You know, I'm sure he's got ability. Loved him at Rome, a fantastic player. But he's not suited to the system. It's clear. It doesn't work. I don't think we're going to be seeing that much more of him.
No. And yeah, I think it was the least surprising decision when he was taken off at half time.
Time and time again, Rich. He's been hooked at half time many times.
Yes. Yeah, I agree. Yeah. You know, I know Emery said after the game, you know, we've got to give players these minutes and that, but we're getting into the situation now. Like, we are people, supporters, critics, pundits, journalists are saying Villa are in a top 4 race. Okay, Emery might be totally blocking out that noise, right? But you can't help but pay attention to it. You can't afford to be playing players and having to take them off at half time. You just can't afford to be doing that.
No, and it's happened time and time again, as we say, and it's not just him, by the way. You know, they've hooked Leon Bailey at half time and put him on. They've hooked no end of players at half. It's getting a little bit silly to the point where you're thinking, well, come on, let's try and get it right from the off. It almost like a first half attacking waste of football, because what did he do in the first half? You know, it's just a waste of a half of football. And I think as managers, they'll always come out and defend players. That's what they do. We know they read between the lines, and he didn't actually do loads wrong. He just didn't do anything right, did he? So it was it was one of them, you know. And we said on the last pod, he would have suited the previous game. You know, he would have been sort of probably suited to that. But even so, to get hooked again at half-time, it can't do him any good. And he's
No.
just not doing it. I just don't think he gets the system. I don't think he
No.
does. You
No.
need another John McGinn.
Yeah. And look, I'm critical of him, but as I said on my instant match reaction, I want the guy to do well. Like, I don't want any Villa player not to do well. You want them to do well. It's just when you can see that it ain't working, and it was almost like as bad as playing with 10 men in that first half, because he was giving the ball away so often and he wasn't holding it up, and it only takes one part of the machine not to be working for it all to kind of fall down. And look, we got out of jail almost with that game. A couple of players scoring big goals at big moments, and yeah, fair enough, we had a VAR decision that went against us. We could have snuck out there with a win, but we definitely take a point. But there's two massive games to come. Obviously tomorrow, Man City. They're without Rodri, which is a massive thing for us. Could be without Doku, definitely without Grealish. Are you confident going into this game?
I'm more confident than I would have been. My missus is a Man City fan, so it's going to be an uncomfortable night for one of us. But I think, I mean, at home, our home form, we could say, we're at home, great. But, it's Man City. So what's the chances? If we come out of it of a point, I think that's a decent result, don't you?
Yeah, 100%. I said any type of good, decent result from one of the next two or both of the next two, we're in with a shout. So yes, I'm sure we will be back. It's a quick turnaround, but I'm sure we'll be back with talking tactics for this big game tomorrow night, Wednesday night, and then we've got Arsenal to follow up. So plenty of analysis to be done, guys. Thank you all for watching. Smash that like button if you haven't already. Hit the subscribe button. Help us on the road to 3K. Comment down below your thoughts. Zaniolo, Bailey, the system, etc., away form. We appreciate all your comments, so get involved in the chat. Gareth, thank you once again for some fantastic analysis. Thank you all for watching, and as always, remember, we all follow the Villa. Thanks, everyone.
Up and running, and Villa is loud.